I saw the movie like less than 12 hours ago and I truly loved it. I'm not just saying that 'cause I'm talking to you guys, but it's one of those movies where I felt like I was just hanging out with these characters for a while. There was this 1970s hangout feeling that was just so apparent in the film, and I think that really comes through a lot of the work you guys have done. So I loved it. And I appreciate you taking the time. I want to jump in by sort of talking about the fact that obviously Tony gets his start at the flagship, and the beginning of his job, he's washing the dishes. He's sort of starting at the bottom rung of the ladder. And I'm curious to know what were those first roles for you both, where you kind of had to cut your teeth in the industry to at the start of your careers? Where was that sort of comparison for you both?
You know, kind of similar stories with the same group of folks. Should I go first, Bobby? Because I was first with these
Yeah,
people.
you
It was with the same team, or a lot of the same people that were on this movie, like the director Matt Johnson, producer Matt Miller, and the composer Jay McCarroll. They already had a group that were making films. There was one called The Dirties, and that was right out of film school, kind of the first thing I really worked on as an assistant editor. And then Robert or Bobby over in the States saw the trailer for The Dirties, right? Is that what I?
was the trailer, and then I found the Nirvana band web show, and I became a mega fan. And yeah, I reached out. I sent an email, a cold email, and Matt and his team kind of all responded saying nice things. I asked for an internship, and the crazy thing is that Matt was flying through America the next day, and so he's like, "Oh, if you're in Arizona, which is where I said I was, you should come meet me at the airport because I have a layover there." And so I met him and got to join as an intern, and pretty much I was Curt was the first chef that I had because I was Curt's kind of intern in the editing room of OpAv. Um,
That's so it's if you don't believe in serendipity, right? That's got to kind of be a little bit of him being in Arizona at the same time as is good stuff. Like I said, I love the hangout vibe of this film, and I think like an editing technical aspect of creating that vibe is the way you guys let moments sort of sit for a little bit or scenes and reactions sort of linger. And it kind of reminded me of that time in your late teens and early 20s where you feel like time's eternal. Like time kind of moves around this world that you are the center of. And I'm curious to know what timing on how timing sort of plays into editing and what you're looking for in a scene if you are going to sort of let it sit with the audience for a little bit. Are there technical aspects you are looking for in those moments?
Yeah, I think it really is about knowing kind of the momentum of where the movie's at that point, and kind of like where the characters are sitting, and then dictating when it is most enjoyable to kind of milk those moments, it's probably definitely like a trial thing where you try some things out, and then I think we can tell pretty quick that we're pretty, I think, honest about our work. And just individually when we're cutting our scenes, we can probably get a feel for it, or certainly when we share it with each other, I think we're pretty honest with how things are feeling. But again, we were so lucky with this movie where we could probably do that more often than most films.
mhm.
What's the reason for that, do you think, Robert, that you got a chance to do that a little bit more?
Part of it is that they were just written into the script. Like one thing that comes to mind when you say just sitting in it is when Chef and Tony are making ketchup together and filling the salt. Like that was a vision Matt had from the beginning that that scene would just settle and watch them do that, and that alone would be interesting. Um, and so the fact that it was kind of baked in there, but then just finding, I think for me, it's the first watch of the footage is so important because that's when I'm seeing things fresh and I'm realizing, oh, I've been watching this one shot for a very long time. And if I'm riveted right now, maybe there's a chance that it could stay like that without cutting in the actual film.
Bobby, you got
Um,
to say spoiler, spoiler, they make ketchup in this movie.
okay.
You
Yeah.
can't let people
Sorry,
know.
What
guys.
I'll do
Yeah.
is I'll bleep that out and we'll
Yeah,
just let
perfect.
people, you will let people imagine whatever they want to think you said in that
It's
moment.
great.
Talking about sort of just looking, like you're saying, Bobby, looking at a scene and sort of knowing. I think the part of like what I liked about Tony is his acute observation of things, whether it is to actually learn something or to like make his lies better, to have a backstory going to it. He uses observation almost like a superpower for himself. And I'm curious to know how observation or where you have used observation in your art form in editing? What is the power of observation in a crucial way to what you do?
I'll jump in first. It's being tuned into, for me, it's being tuned into like I guess a lot of it is human faces and just the little nuances of like something changes in someone's face, and especially if it's a really good actor, it's not something overt, but you need to be able to catch it. And if you can catch it and put it up on the screen, I think all humans are have that ability to read it as well. And so um, just being the first one to make sure that we're bringing in all the best moments of nuance, I guess. So just being always being uh, tuned into our observational sense. But that's
I was going to say, I've noticed before when I'm editing, it'll be like late night. I'm by myself looking at the screen in a dark room, and I've caught myself like mimicking the faces that the actors are making, or almost like responding without meaning to. But I think that's a good sign that you're kind of like into it and really feeling what they're giving. And that's what's so great about editing, is it's so much just responding to what you've been given, you know? And we were very lucky with this movie with the performances we got.
They are truly incredible. Is that kind of like an instinct of being like an audience member as well? Do you feel like you're watching the film as if you were the audience, I guess, as well?
Yeah, I think
oh
so
yeah.
for sure. And what a privilege to get to be like, if I'm sitting there watching this, I think this happens next, and then this. And yeah, and I think that's probably most people's approaches to cutting a film, but certainly for us, it's like letting the footage inform what it's going to be and kind of have it be organic. And then something shows up and you're like, oh, I guess that's what this is now about, and then building around it instead of kind of setting out with like well, this is how the scene's written, so let's try to jam all these spots into their place, you know?
Mm. I I don't know whether I'm looking into this too much, but I feel like there's a strong focus on hands in the film. I feel like one of the
Mm.
first shots we see of Tony is his hands. He burns, he stabs, people are smoking, shucking oysters. There was just a big focus on hands in the film. I'm curious to know whether there was like conscious conversations with Matt about that being a focus within the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is initially he had conceived that first the first fellowship pitch scene as just focusing on his hands the entire time. And so that was always in Matt's mind, and that was what he went into that day of shooting thinking we were going to do in the edit. And so I think that carried throughout the whole film, I'm sure. Ultimately, we wanted to see Dom's face and Tony while he's spinning these lies, I guess. But that's the only thing I can think of. Yeah, what do you think, Curt?
Yeah, and I think lots of like wanting to be in Tony's POV, and whenever he's doing these things like writing or cooking or whatever, it's like very intimate and his perspective. And and yeah, there's, I guess I don't want to talk too much about what happens in the movie, but moments with his hands when they're in peril, even I'll say. And I think, yeah, I think that was intentional, and just also a result of how they set out to shoot the movie in this like really tight coverage, and oftentimes that's what's the focus. But certainly we did talk about that, and they talk about how like the left hand is the devil's side, all that type of stuff. It really played into that. Yeah, yeah.
As a left-handed person, I felt a
Oh
little
yeah,
called out, but hey, that's
yeah,
I got a little devil in me, I guess.
yeah.
Um, I'm curious to know, and I don't know if this is sort of expanding a bit too much on it, but like I think of hands, like especially with a chef, is this, it is this all-being creative power to like what they're doing is very much what they do. Or I know the other senses play into it, but they have to craft it with that as well. Is there a sort of muscle memory for you both as editors? Like your hands are also creating some sort of art in that as well. Do you kind of ever think about that connection between hands and what you both do?
I'll just jump in to say you should watch Curt edit because he plays the keys like an instrument, and it's really wild to see it. I aspire to be like that, but I'm much slower. But even myself, of course, we all have hotkeys and just a flow that you get into where you're not realizing what your hands are doing, but you're just focused on
Mm.
building the timeline. But really, there should be a video released of Curt's hands while
That's very
scenes
sweet.
forms. That'd be
That's
great.
very sweet. Thank you, Bobby. But yeah, I think I do seem to remember kind of in my journey of editing the feeling of like, oh, my hands aren't stopping my creative flow here. Like I'm just able to kind of be doing what I'm thinking is right. And that's a real lucky spot to be in. I think in any art form or any line of work when you can kind of just be thinking about it and not, getting caught up on the actual like physical task.
Hmm. Yeah, so that flow state, right? Like
Hmm.
what we was talking about. It, being set in 1975 and Jaws is mentioned and shown in the film as well, but obviously like in that year you have movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, 3 Days of the Condor, Dog Day Afternoon. I'm curious to know these pivotal films of American cinema and you're telling such an authentically American story, what sort of influence, if any, did those movies sort of have, those editing styles of those films sort of have on Tony?
Oh, that's
It's
interesting.
funny that you say Dog Day Afternoon. That movie's awesome. And we made a show called Nirvana the Band the Show, and there's an episode that kind of like parodies it or not. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bank robbery. And but we were going to and we shot clips of Dog Day Afternoon to put in Tony when they're at the drive-in. But I think legal reasons maybe came up and stopped us from doing it. But yeah, certainly those are very influential films, I think, for both of us.
You're telling me legal reasons and you couldn't get away
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
yeah,
After seeing that, I was like, look, I thought you guys get away with anything.
yeah.
Bobby, for yourself, was there sort of that, did you see that sort of as 1975, or was that something that was on your mind when editing this film?
You know, it never came up like I'm just inspired by those films in general. So like it's in there somewhere, but I think we just had to approach so much of it is just approaching it from what the footage Matt gives us and the style that we know that he enjoys. And maybe it's the same philosophies that they were like just his cutting philosophies. Just you just don't want to cut for any poor reason, or if you're cutting, you just got to have a good reason, even if it's to hide a take being flubbed or something. Like you need to find a good reason to come into that next shot. And so those are things that all those films did. So it's all there, I
Yeah.
guess.
They're all iconic in their own rights.
Oh yeah.
One of the biggest laughs for me in the film is the jump cut to Tony vomiting after his big night
Hmm.
out, and it just reminded me again how constantly just a solid good snap cut can be. In that, are there any sort of jump cuts, or I don't know if that's the right technical term or not, in cinema that just stand out to you, whether they're funny, whether they're dramatically impactful? Do you have sort of like a go-to Mount Rushmore style jump cut that sticks out to you as the gold standard?
You know, it's so brutal. I instantly thought of a movie I edited.
No, I
Okay,
think that makes
But not
sense.
because of that,
makes sense.
just because I got a lot of love for it. So it got burnt in my head. But I edited a movie called The Kid Detective where there's a character in a closet, a little girl's closet, hiding by accident, and then he sneezes, and then the next shot is him in a police station.
Police
But
station.
let me get a better example that's not something I worked on. Or Bobby, you try and go. You
That well,
go.
that makes sense. It's hard because I'm sure I'll think of something great that I really
Hmm.
love right after this, but oh man. So that makes sense that that comes to mind for you, Curt. So I'm
It's a great movie, The Kid Detective, by the way.
Oh,
It's
thank
a
you.
great, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I can let you think on that one, Bobby, because I do have a closing question
yes.
that is probably a little bit easy to answer, but in the sense of like I'm just curious to know how many takes and how many angles you had to sit through of Dominic getting woken up having water thrown on him. Is there a 100-minute cut of Tony that is just Dominic getting woken up by Antonio Banderas throwing water on him?
I would say maybe I feel like we used the best of them, and if anything, we probably wanted more.
Oh well,
Unless you think differently, Curt. Like I feel like they were trying to spare him in some ways, and so they and all of those are used. Like you see him getting woken up a lot in different outfits. So I think we used them
Yeah.
all. We could have used more, maybe.
Yeah, and definitely Antonio got nicer with every splash. Like he would started out pretty intense. So I think a lot of the first takes were used. And I know my answer or one of the answers
yeah,
to the jump cut. In the movie Green Room, when they're about to party, do you know this moment? And they like drop
yeah,
the
yeah.
needle down on the record, and then you're like, whoa, and then the music starts to get big, and then it cuts to like the quiet next morning. That's great. It's kind of
That's
almost like the
great, man.
reverse of like instead you jump cut to like the quiet, and it
The
had such a
quietness
great
of it,
effect.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a great movie as well.
So, Bobby, you have to come up with a good one before the interview can end. I hope you know this.
The more the pressure gets,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
Well, speaking of, we are at the end. I appreciate both your time. Like I said, I genuinely did love this movie, but I will say this is currently my favorite movie of the year so far.
yeah.
I
Oh,
love it, and
awesome.
what you guys pull off with that is truly phenomenal. And I also have in that collection behind me, The Dirties and Operation Avalanche, all the films that you guys have worked on with this team
Cool.
over the
Thank
years.
you.
So I appreciate you both for the time. I hope we get to talk again soon. And yeah, congrats on the film, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.